Hook 'em up, Mater.
Where am I?
You're in Radiator Springs, the cutest little town in Carburetor County.
How about some organic fuel?
Take a car wash, hippie.
When Cars raced into theaters in 2006, it carried with it more than the polished sheen of high-speed animation and family-friendly humor. It delivered a story about ego, identity, and the forgotten corners of America, wrapped inside the gleaming chassis of a red race car named Lightning McQueen. At first glance, the film appears to be a straightforward sports narrative centered on competition for the coveted Piston Cup championship. But as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that the real journey has little to do with trophies and everything to do with humility, friendship, and rediscovering purpose in unexpected places. Lightning McQueen, voiced with charismatic confidence by Owen Wilson, is introduced as a rookie sensation in the racing world. He is talented, ambitious, and unapologetically self-centered. From the outset, his worldview is narrow. Winning is everything, and anyone who slows him down is an obstacle. His sleek design and flashy paint job mirror his personality, bright, loud, and impossible to ignore. The film wastes no time establishing the stakes. In his debut season, Lightning ties in points with two seasoned competitors, the legendary Strip the King Weathers, voiced by real-life racing icon Richard Petty, and the aggressive, opportunistic Chick Hicks, brought to life by Michael Keaton. A three-way tie demands a final race in California to determine the Piston Cup champion, and Lightning is determined to make that title his alone. On the road to California, Lightning's impatience and inflated ego begin to create cracks in his seemingly perfect trajectory. He dismisses his pit crew, fires his loyal team without hesitation, and places blind faith in a high-end transport arrangement that prioritizes image over loyalty. It is during this journey that fate intervenes. In a moment of chaos and misdirection, Lightning tumbles out of his trailer and becomes stranded far from the spotlight he craves. The vast highway, which once symbolized momentum and progress, suddenly feels isolating and indifferent. He finds himself in a dusty, nearly forgotten town called Radiator Springs. Radiator Springs is a relic of a bygone era, a small desert town that once thrived along Route 66, but has since faded into obscurity after the construction of a major interstate that diverted traffic away. The town's stillness contrasts sharply with Lightning's high-speed lifestyle. Neon signs flicker with nostalgia rather than glamour, storefronts stand half-empty, and the few residents who remain carry stories etched with patience and quiet resilience. For Lightning, Radiator Springs initially represents inconvenience and delay. For the audience, it becomes the emotional heart of the film. Among the town's residents is Sally Carrera, voiced by Bonnie Hunt. Sally is intelligent, compassionate, and deeply invested in preserving what remains of Radiator Springs. She sees beyond Lightning's arrogance and recognizes his potential for growth, even when he cannot. Through their conversations, the film introduces themes of legacy and loss. Sally speaks of the town's golden days, when travelers slowed down, appreciated the journey, and found joy in simple connections. Her perspective begins to challenge Lightning's obsession with speed and status. Then there is Mater, the rusty but endlessly optimistic tow truck, voiced by Larry the Cable Guy. Mater is the embodiment of unconditional friendship. He is unpolished, naive in certain ways, yet emotionally perceptive. Unlike the corporate sponsors and media figures in Lightning's racing world, Mater asks for nothing in return. His humor is broad and physical, but beneath the jokes lies sincerity. Through Mater, Lightning experiences companionship without competition, a concept foreign to him at the beginning of the story. The most pivotal relationship, however, develops between Lightning and Doc Hudson, voiced by screen legend Paul Newman. Doc appears at first to be a gruff, no-nonsense judge who holds Lightning accountable for the damage he causes upon his reckless arrival in town. but beneath Doc's stern exterior lies a hidden history. He was once the Hudson Hornet, a 3-time Piston Cup champion whose promising career ended abruptly after a devastating crash and subsequent rejection by the racing community. Doc represents the painful side of fame, how quickly glory can fade, and how mercilessly the spotlight moves on to the next sensation. As Lightning is sentenced to repair the road he destroyed, the act becomes more than punishment. It is a forced deceleration. The once self-absorbed racer must physically rebuild a path for others, laying asphalt under the watchful eyes of townsfolk who measure worth not by trophies, but by integrity. Initially, Lightning attempts shortcuts, trying to complete the task as quickly as possible, but Doc insists on quality. This insistence becomes metaphorical. Life cannot always be rushed without consequence. Gradually, Radiator Springs begins to transform Lightning. He learns to appreciate the scenic beauty of the desert at sunset, to value conversations that are not broadcast to millions, and to understand that identity is not defined solely by accolades. The town's residents, each quirky in their own way, offer him fragments of wisdom. They share stories of endurance, of adapting to change, and of holding on to dignity when the world forgets you. The revelation of Doc's past as a racing champion becomes a turning point. Lightning sees in Doc both a cautionary tale and a mirror of his own trajectory. He realizes that the pursuit of victory without connection leads to isolation. Doc, in turn, reluctantly rediscovers his own passion for racing by mentoring Lightning. Their dynamic shifts from adversarial to paternal, creating one of the film's most emotionally resonant arcs. When it finally comes time for Lightning to leave Radiator Springs and return to California for the tiebreaker race, the decision carries weight. The championship that once consumed him no longer feels like the singular measure of success. Yet he understands that running from the race would dishonor the growth he has experienced. The town rallies behind him, symbolically reconnecting their forgotten community to the larger world through his journey. The climactic race unfolds with high tension. Chick Hicks embodies ruthless ambition, willing to sacrifice sportsmanship for victory. The king, aging yet dignified, races not merely for another title, but for legacy. Lightning finds himself in a position to secure the Piston Cup, the dream he chased from the beginning. But in a critical moment, Chick collides with the king, sending the veteran racer into a violent crash, reminiscent of Doc's own career-ending accident. In that instant, Lightning faces a choice that defines his character. He can cross the finish line and claim the championship, fulfilling his original goal, or he can abandon glory to ensure the king's safety and dignity. He chooses the latter. Lightning breaks, turns back, and pushes the king across the finish line, sacrificing victory to honor sportsmanship and respect. It is the culmination of his transformation. Winning no longer outweighs doing what is right. Chick Hicks ultimately claims the Piston Cup, but his triumph feels hollow, overshadowed by public disapproval of his tactics. Lightning, though officially second, emerges as the moral victor. The racing world sees his act of compassion, and sponsorship opportunities shift accordingly. More importantly, Lightning chooses to relocate his racing headquarters to Radiator Springs, bringing renewed vitality to the town that reshaped him. The film's conclusion reinforces its central thesis. Life is not solely about the destination, but about the connections forged along the way. Radiator Springs, once bypassed and nearly forgotten, regains a sense of purpose. Doc reclaims his identity not as a fallen champion, but as a respected mentor. Sally finds hope for her town's future. Mater gains a best friend who values him genuinely. and Lightning McQueen evolves from a self-absorbed rookie into a competitor who understands that character outlasts speed. Visually, the film marries expansive desert landscapes with kinetic race sequences, juxtaposing stillness and motion. The open highway becomes a metaphor for modern efficiency, while Route 66 symbolizes memory and tradition. This thematic contrast underpins the narrative's emotional resonance. By anthropomorphizing vehicles, the film creates distance from human drama while paradoxically making its lessons universal. In retrospect, the enduring appeal of Pixar Animation Studios' storytelling lies in its ability to embed mature themes within accessible frameworks. Cars speaks to children about friendship and perseverance, but it also speaks to adults about burnout, obsolescence, and the fear of being left behind by progress. Doc's storyline in particular resonates as a meditation on how society discards its heroes once they cease to generate spectacle. Over the years, the film has maintained cultural relevance through its memorable characters and quotable humor. Lightning's catchphrase, Mater's comedic timing, and the dignified presence of the king contribute to a layered narrative that balances levity with introspection. The Piston Cup itself becomes less a trophy and more a narrative device, an object that exposes the character's values. Ultimately, the legacy of Cars is defined not by box office numbers or merchandise, but by the quiet realization it imparts. Slowing down can reveal what relentless acceleration obscures. In a world that often prizes speed, visibility, and constant achievement, the film dares to suggest that fulfillment may lie in community, mentorship, and integrity. Lightning McQueen's greatest victory is not etched on a trophy, it is reflected in the headlights of friends who stand beside him when the race is over.